Hey everyone, how's it going? We've been making skits about me being in DSA, and the truth is, I actually am, and so is Natalie.
Yeah, we joined DSA after Bernie dropped out of his presidential race. We knew a lot of people that volunteered and worked for the Bernie campaign and joined DSA after he dropped out, so we also did.
And in fact, I'm actually one of the branch coordinators.
Yeah, Johnny wanted to get more involved in DSA, so he ran for the branch coordinator of our area and he ended up winning.
And I'm happy to be a part of this passionate and diverse organization, but if you've been watching some of our recent videos, I play this pathetic character that's supposed to be from DSA.
Yeah, so this character basically represents some DSA members, especially some that we've been seeing on Twitter a lot, that criticize Jimmy Dore, the Combo Couch, etc. for criticizing DSA.
Exactly. That's why organizations like the DSA should be criticized. If it's non-hierarchical and open to dialogue, then we should be criticizing it. We don't need a dogmatic allegiance to an organization. So that's why we support Jimmy Dore and the Combo Couch in their criticisms of the DSA.
Definitely. And another person who is very vocal in criticizing DSA is this person named Salem Snow. Salem is a part of DSA's, the Philly branch of DSA, and he's actually also running for the Pennsylvania 2nd congressional seat, and we talked to him about some of his hopes for that seat, for his run, and we also talked to him about some of the serious issues within the Philly DSA branch.
Absolutely. And for the rabid DSA defenders like Vash, please watch this conversation with an open heart and an open mind. Thank you.
Enjoy! Johnny, let's go!
Yeah. Welcome to the Far Left Show, we break it down, zooming through political news in the lockdown, talking to people, solving issues. These are the kinds of views you won't see on your news. Stick around the show, cause things could get crazy. We even have chihuahuas named Dougie and Daisy. We're called the Far Left to scare the neoliberals, but interview candidates from primary to general. We're the Far Left, break it down, come and join us here and now. Johnny, Daisy, Natalie, Dougie, talk issues affecting this country. We're the Far Left, break it down, come and join us here and now. Johnny, Daisy, Natalie, Dougie, talk issues starting now.
There we go. Awesome. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, the first thing we wanted to know is Salem Snow, your real name. It's an amazing name. It's just so cool.
Thank you. So it is my legal name, but I changed my name as an adult. Salem was like a nickname I got like as a young teenager. And my birth name never particularly suited me. So like as an adult, I called my mom and I was like, would you be offended if I changed my name? And she was like, no, not really. Like I don't have an attachment to it. And I was like, okay, cool. So everybody called me Salem anyway, so I just made it official.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually lived in Salem, Oregon for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's a really cool. And I always remember when it snowed in Salem. It was so nice. So it keeps reminding me of that.
I'll take that. I like the imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and can you also just tell us a little bit about what are you running for?
Sure. So I am running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Pennsylvania 2nd Congressional District.
Awesome.
Cool. Could you tell us a little bit like what that district looks like the makeup of it?
Yeah, sure. So the district it's a very low income district. The average income per individual is around $20,000 or less. It is about half women, half men. And it is primarily a non-white district. So our district has been like impacted by disproportionately by like just about everything on the discussion board kind of. We've been disproportionately impacted by underinsurance or lack of health insurance, the opioid epidemic, lack of housing. So there's a lot of struggle in the district, definitely.
Got it. And that being said, can you just give us a rundown of some of your policy proposals and some of your priorities?
Yeah, totally. So we're running on a couple of progressive staple policies, Medicare for all. I will say that, like, on the Medicare for all front, my views are, so I don't think profit should be in healthcare at all. I think Bernie's proposal of Medicare for all is the minimum that we should accept, and I think we should keep working to dismantle a for-profit healthcare industry. Um, Also, we're running on a Green New Deal and housing for all, because housing is a very serious issue, not just, nationally, but also in this district particularly. As well as what we call a people's bailout, which is kind of like an assortment of policies. It includes things like ongoing stimulus checks that are retroactive back to the beginning of the pandemic, as well as like the emergency inaction of Medicare for all, and things like universal broadband, so that there's no classist barriers, in learning, since we're all having to do everything digitally during the pandemic. So those are the core platforms that we're running on, and we plan to expand that as we go.
Right.
Cool. And as teachers ourselves, we know how difficult it can be for some students. I know we just mentioned the internet for some students is like horrible. Like they'll get kicked out of Zoom, so they won't be able to access classes. Like, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. And some of them have to get hotspots from our school, but our school doesn't have enough hotspots for all the students either. And there's some students who have multiple siblings who are just using one hotspot, and it's like so many students at once using one hotspot just isn't working. I also have one student who says they're using their neighbor's Wi-Fi. So yeah, it really shows the inequities having, not having universal broadband.
Right. And it's more stressful on teachers as well, because like you're trying to keep up with all the students, you're trying to make sure everybody's, learning what they're supposed to be learning. And you've got these constant like disruptions of, internet service or I know like my brother, my mom has been working, he's in the public school system right now. And I know they've had all sorts of problems between like him just not being able to like navigate the platform yet, not knowing where to find assignments. So then he ends up not knowing he had any. And it's a mess. And it's really something that I think the US government should have been ahead of, especially at this point. Like, we're a year in, dude. Like,
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just very inadequate.
It is.
I wanted to move over to something even more important, and that's like Twitter fighting. So I actually, this is just a back and forth I had with this guy named Froggy Style. It's just some account on there. And I wanted to actually talk to you because you mentioned that Bernie Sanders' Medicare for all policy is like, that's like the first step, but it definitely isn't like the final product that we want. And I actually was talking about how Medicare for all is a socialist policy. And so Froggy Style, and I want to actually hear your take on this. He told me, no, that's the capitalist process. And I was like, okay, so what would be the communist or socialist? And he's like, to abolish the commodity. And so I said, well, that's kind of a big jump. Like, don't you need to have steps to getting there? And I was wondering, because you also mentioned Medicare for all isn't like going far enough in some ways. Could you talk a little bit about that whole idea?
Yeah. So the way I view, specifically like Bernie's Medicare for all, I think it's a great step in the right direction. I do think it's a capitalist compromise because his policy doesn't, abolish like profit in healthcare completely. So I kind of view that as like the compromise between like a socialist and like a capitalist proposal. I think I would say it's almost like a social like democracy type proposal, like they do in Europe. And like I said, I don't think it goes far enough by any means, because I don't believe that you can have truly equitable and equal healthcare for everyone unless profit is not a factor. Because as long as profit is allowed to exist, then they're going to try to make, oh, well, these people pay for like health insurance, so like they need to have better quality type of thing. Like, right? Like, why else would you have different, like a public option, those types of proposals versus like very capitalist proposals. But so yeah, that's my view on it.
I really hope we can get Medicare for all, like at least sometime in the next 4 years, so that we can actually start talking about what you mentioned and like commodifying healthcare in general, because that would be a really good thing to move into.
Definitely.
But what I wanted to ask you, and it involves healthcare as well, could you talk to me a little bit about your stance on force the vote? And
Oh, sure.
yeah,
So I was very much in favor of force the vote. I didn't particularly buy into any of the arguments against force the vote because I didn't really see what we had to lose to begin with. Like we weren't in a position to lose anything. So, and I think that if you're in a position where you can't lose anything, then why wouldn't you do whatever you can? Like whatever tools are at your disposal, use them, right? Like the worst thing that happens is that like we don't get anything from it. And that's, the same outcome as just handing it to them. So.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe you're in DSA, right? Are you a member of DSA? So I was
For now.
Oh yeah. So I was curious, like, just what your experience in DSA has been overall, and also, I don't know about you, but like we're in DSA too, and I was a little disappointed that DSA didn't take a strong stance on the force the vote issue. So I was wondering what your thought on that was as well.
So as far as my experience with DSA, I've noticed that like the experiences you have with DSA can vary greatly depending on the chapter you're dealing with, because there's like super big differences in some chapters. Like I know that a lot of chapters have like created their own mutual aid initiatives, during the pandemic, any number of things. And also like, I just want to point out that there are like DSA chapters that get behind third party candidates, which I think is really important instead of just funneling everybody into the Democratic Party. I think that we need to have pressure both inside and outside of the party to really move the Overton window left and to have an effective socialist movement. But I don't know. I think since DSA has like shot up in like membership in the past couple cycles, that they've gotten a little more liberal, which like, I mean, I guess that makes sense depending on where you are, like if you have a lot of like baby leftists, like all coming into the party at one time, like I can understand how that happens. I think I don't really understand why DSA as a whole didn't get behind force the vote. Like I know that there was kind of like some division there, like some chapters expressed support and some criticized. But I mean, I guess that's what DSA is. Like I said, varies greatly by chapter.
Yeah. I know there's this piece written by someone. I'm a branch coordinator for the DSA LA East Side San Gabriel Valley branch. And we have a member who wrote actually this paper. I'm actually going to attach it. I'm forgetting the title, but his name is Hector Rivera. And he said that DSA should have established a second front during the Black Lives Matter George Floyd protests. And the front should have been focused on force the vote, because that signifies Black Lives Matter, because obviously like we need to give healthcare to marginalized communities, and that would show that their lives matter. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah. And so the title I think is like, if DSA's like inaction is going to kill us all. It was something like that.
Yeah.
It was really intense, but I'll attach and I'll send it to you too. I also wanted to ask you, just because on your Twitter bio, you mentioned that you were in the Rose Caucus. Could you talk about that? And also you said you're in DSA for now. Could you talk a little bit more about that statement as well?
Sure. So Rose Caucus is basically just a platform advocacy group. It's kind of normalizing leftist platform positions, which the United States, I've noticed that like even people that, identify as socialist while they're running have a tendency to make their platforms kind of very palatable to like liberals and Democrats in general, which like I totally get. But yeah, so like the Rose Caucus point is like to not water down policies, not make anything, warping anything or watering it down to appease anyone to our right, and rather just stating that like, hey, like this is the right thing to do, and that's what we're going to push regardless of what you think about it. So that's that's what Rose Caucus is. It's a platform advocacy group. I know that there was a lot of tension between Rose Caucus and DSA when we first formed, because some chapters felt like we were trying to, I don't know, compete with DSA, which was totally not the case, because we have several members that are in both. And I think the purposes of both groups are very different. DSA isn't really like a platform advocacy group. Like, you know, they do like push for policies like Medicare for all and stuff like that. But it's just not like the forefront of what they do. And as far as being a member for now, so I don't know how familiar y'all are with like Philly DSA, but like they tend to be kind of notorious among like DSA people, especially if you ever like read like the online DSA forums. There's like a lot of pee in there. But so we started having issues a couple years ago. Like Philly DSA just kind of put people in leadership positions who worked for corporate Democrats, which made me feel a little weird. And then they were putting people in leadership positions who were also in steering committee positions of dark money entities, which also made me really uncomfortable. But, you know, I stuck around. I was like, you know, it's just a couple of complaints. You can have that with any org. And then as we kind of moved on, I remember when the BLM uprisings first started, they put out a very white-centric like statement about George Floyd that I was like really unhappy with. And they just kind of, it was this long statement and kind of like turned it into a like, this is why we need a living wage. And I was like, what? Like, that has nothing to do with this. Yeah. But so from that point, like, there was more criticism. There was also like people within the DSA chapter that didn't particularly like me just because I was associated with Rose Caucus. So there was already tensions with certain people. But then in October, we had a resolution to get involved with mutual aid. And I, for one, like, am a huge fan of mutual aid, especially a socialist. I feel like that's something that we should focus on, especially during a pandemic. And they had leadership, like folks in leadership who were actively whipping votes to block the resolution, which was just like really strange to me. And like, ironically, some of those people were the same ones who either worked for corporate Democrats or had ties to dark money entities. And I was like, okay, like this is a little bit too much now.
Should we call some of them out? Are there any ones that we should call out?
I don't know. I mean, I could. I mean, I might as well. Fuck it. Like, I'm this far anyway. So there's a couple people in Philly DSA. There's Mindy Iser, who has also worked with like dark money entities that were associated with Hillary Clinton. And there's been a few other people, like there's someone named Austin Benz, for example, who is on the electoral leadership. And that's all the names I can think to call out right now. But so yeah, so like I actually like said something about it on Twitter because for one, the way that Philly DSA is set up is not very promoting of having like relationships or actively working with other members. Like we only have meetings 4 times a year. And now that they're on Zoom, they like cut off the chat. And so it's all controlled by them. We can't talk amongst ourselves. A while back, someone had brought forward a proposal for us to like organize on Discord or Slack or something like that. And people in leadership whipped votes and blocked that. We tried to have more meetings. Someone brought forward a resolution to have more than 4 meetings a year, and they blocked that. And so at this point, like I was just like done with their shit, right? I was just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So I commented on it on Twitter, and that started a whole thing. And then I actually had like a grievance filed against me for harassment. And I was like, okay, so whatever. So I didn't like treat that seriously or whatever, and like kept about my life. And then at a meeting, they blocked another mutual aid vote a second time in the following meeting. So that was like a whole thing all over again. And they ended up like, the steering committee ended up like voting to censure me. And they were like, you need to delete like these tweets. And I was like, no. Like that's not a thing. Especially because like Twitter is like my personal, account. Like this isn't like representative of DSA. So I was like, well, no, but like I'm down for like mediation sessions or, anything to like actually work this out so we can all be on the same page and like, progressing the movement. But like all requests for mediation were denied and they eventually like suspended me for not deleting the tweets, which is where I'm kind of at now. So like now I'm appealing to national and, we'll wait to see what happens with that. But I do want to say though, like after just like massively shit talking Philly DSA, that I want to reiterate that there are really good chapters of DSA that are doing a lot of good work. And there have been a lot of folks in other DSA chapters that have like reached out to me and been like, I'm so sorry, like Philly DSA is like the worst one. Like we don't claim them, which like I hear all the time. um, but yeah, so like I don't think it's necessarily a problem with the whole org, like I think it's just like you have people that are like that go after positions of power. Like, you see it in like the workforce, you see it in politics. And I think it's just another one of those things, like people gunning for positions of power who really shouldn't have them.
Well, your criticisms seem 100% valid. Like Philly DSA, get your act together. Also, like, if we can't seize the means of communication, how the hell are we supposed to seize the means of production? Like, it makes no sense.
Right? Like in our own organization too. Like,
right. Yeah, there's this. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was the same thing with what I was seeing on Twitter with Force the Vote. I saw so many DSA people being like screw Jimmy Dore because he's being critical of us. It's like, what? Like as leftists, we should be critical and accept criticisms and try to
absolutely
our coalition. So yeah, I agree.
I've noticed like a lot of members of DSA are non-dialectical. Like they don't really understand the productivity of conversation and critiquing other people's ideas, no matter what it is. Like even if it's on the left, critiquing a strategy, but also acknowledging the pros. Like there's not enough of that academic, and it doesn't even have to be academic. It's just empathetic, like understanding of other people and the situation we're in. But I know not all that. Again, that's not all either. I think there's a balance there. But we definitely need the people who enjoy that discourse to sort of be in power, in my opinion, to hear all voices.
Agreed. And I think criticism is actually like really important, especially like as we're, as leftists, we're kind of progressively getting more left as we go. And I think that we all we've grown up in like a hyper capitalist system, and society has like so many things we have to dismantle, like racism, gender norms. And we've kind of like all essentially been brainwashed. And so like as adults and as leftists that have kind of become aware of that, we have to like dismantle these things within ourselves. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that because that means you have to be open to being wrong all the time. And you have to be open to being criticized and reevaluating your positions. But really, that's like the best way to like, dismantle it within yourself is to get criticized for it because, we can't always see these things within ourselves.
It's true.
And that's actually what college was supposed to be. Like it originally was more so like you have a dissertation, you get criticized. So I think it's important to go back to that roots just as individuals and collectively as well to like enforce that. But is there anything else that you wanted to tell us about either your congressional run or DSA or anything like that before we move on to some of those fun questions at the end?
I don't think I have anything in particular to showcase.
Cool. Where could people find out more about you, like your social media or your website, anything like that?
So my website is Salem for Congress. It's salemforcongress.com. And my social media is Salem for Congress with the number 4 instead of the word. And I'm on, oh God, what am I on? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and I think that's it.
Nice. TikTok.
I love TikTok.
Yeah. Do you make like political videos or like comedic or what? Or both?
So, okay. So like right now I'm actually more of a lurker. Like I'm just like So like I'm like quietly like scrolling through videos, and I'm just like every video I'm like, yes, like love this for you, like, you know, just do just doing the whole supportive thing for everybody. I'm like, yes, like love this, yes, love this. And then like yesterday I was like, maybe I should actually start posting videos or something, like could be a little more productive. But yeah, I plan to actually start doing videos in the next couple of days, so we'll see how that goes.
Cool.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. We're in the same.
Thank you.
We
Yeah.
make TikTok and we just go on it, but we haven't made any. But I just love the funny political ones. Like we want to.
Oh my god, they're so good. They're so
Right.
good, and you learn so much too. It's like little clips of information. I'm like, dude, this is better than school. What the fuck?
Right?
Like,
Right? It's
I know.
so true.
Yeah. So we looked at your website, and it seems like you have a lot of interests, and we wanted to learn a little bit more about those interests specifically. Do you want to ask the first question?
Yeah, sure. Are you into music? And if so, what kind of music are you listening to?
okay, so I love music. I'm actually a musician. Like a whole bunch of people in my family are like musicians,
Oh, wow.
and so like music was always like a huge part of my life growing up. And I am partial to pop music.
Mm.
Just because like I don't know, the conditions of our society and political system can be really like depressing, so like sometimes I just want to disassociate with like really happy pop songs. Lately I've been listening to a lot of Kim Petras and Queen Herbie, and I think some Sia.
Cool.
So yeah, that's kind of been what I've been on lately.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. We definitely got to check that out. You said Sia, we know Sia, but I think the first two I don't know.
No, I don't know that.
Oh, they're fun. Y'all should check them out.
Sweet. Let's also ask. I love video games, so I was excited to hear that you enjoy video games too. I was wondering what kind you play.
Oh my gosh. So I have a PS4. I play. God, I have so many games at this point. It's a little ridiculous. I like action RPGs. I used to like hate first person shooters, but like since the pandemic and I got bored, like I've kind of been playing them more, and I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. I think that's about it. First person shooter. I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular I've been playing. Oh, I actually just got around to playing the Spider-Man game for PS4.
Oh, the first or second one?
The first one.
Nice. Yeah, that one's so fun.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
always
good
have
one.
fun playing that one.
Yeah.
So fun. Like even just like swinging around like the city, like on buildings and stuff. It's just fun. Like, what kind of games do y'all like to play?
So I just played Bloodborne recently, and now I'm playing Dark Souls 3. So I've been really immersed in that. And then I downloaded like on my computer, like Total War, Warhammer 2. So I'm about to play that. So I feel like I'm in that kind of realm. What do you like?
Yeah,
doing?
I mean, I'm not a huge video game player, but the one game I love on the PS4 is Overcooked. Like, oh
Really?
my gosh, Overcooked is
Yeah.
so fun. At least for me, not being.
I haven't tried that one yet. Like I've seen it like recommended on Reddit a lot, and I always think about it, but I haven't actually tried it yet.
It's so fun. Like we would be screaming at each other like, "Go flip the burgers" or whatever it is. It's so fun. I love it.
My
It sounds
5-year-old
fantastic.
loves it too. Like
Yeah.
she's 5 years old, 6 years old actually, and she always wants to play that
Yeah,
game.
she does.
That's so cute.
And the last question is, what books do you read?
Oh, right now I'm reading a book called Listen Liberal.
Mhm.
I don't know if y'all know about that one. Okay, so it's kind of like, well, I don't want to speak on the book yet because I'm still reading it. It's early, but it's kind of like a leftist look at liberalism, kind of. So that one's been really fun. I also recently read The Art of War just because everybody's been telling me to read it since forever, and I never did. So that was interesting. I read all sorts of things though, like autobiographies, political history because I'm boring, and just some stuff on like theory, stuff like that. What kind of stuff do y'all like to read?
Well, speaking of autobiographies, I just read Asada, and I also just read the autobiography for Huey P. Newton. It's called Revolutionary Suicide. Both of those books were really good.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take note of those.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm reading, I don't like what he's doing on Twitter these days, but Ryan Grimm, he wrote We Got People. So it's just about the electoral history from, I think think Jesse Jackson to AOC, and it's just talking about progressivism in electoral politics. Because I want to be able, because I know people bring up things from like electoral history, and it's not very interesting, but I feel like I need to know to respond to it. So that's sort of where I'm at.
Totally feel that. Totally feel that.
Well,
yeah, thank you so much for being with us. That's all the questions we have for you, and we just wish you luck in your congressional run. Like, best of luck. You got this. And we'll be watching your Twitter and all that to see updates.
Thank you so much. It was so fun being here with y'all.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam.